Have you ever watched someone destroy their own reputation with a single thoughtless act in public? Have you seen how one moment of poor judgment can unravel years of careful cultivation of character? Most people believe that public conduct is merely about following social rules, about appearing proper to others. But this understanding misses the deeper truth that Confucius revealed 25 centuries ago. Public behavior is not performance for the crowd. It is the external manifestation of your internal cultivation. It is the visible expression of whether you have truly understood the way or whether you remain trapped in the chaos of untrained impulses. When you step into the presence of others, you carry with you not just your body, but the entire weight of your character. And that character, whether refined or crude, will reveal itself in ways you cannot control. Confucius taught that the superior person conducts themselves the same way, whether observed by thousands or by none at all. This is not hypocrisy. This is integrity. Because true virtue does not change its nature based on audience. True virtue flows from a cultivated heart that has learned to harmonize personal desires with the greater order of righteousness. But here lies the challenge that most never grasp. The public arena is where your deepest weaknesses are magnified, where your unexamined impulses become visible to all. It is easy to maintain composure in solitude. It is simple to appear virtuous when no one tests your patience. But when you stand before others, when emotions rise, when pride is challenged, when desires pull at your heart, that is when your true level of cultivation is revealed. The wise understand that every public interaction is both a test and a teaching, a test of how well you have trained your character, a teaching for those who observe your conduct. This is why Confucius placed such emphasis on propriety, on knowing how to carry oneself with dignity and restraint. Not because appearances matter more than substance, but because appearances reflect substance. The way you speak, the way you move, the way you respond to provocation, all of these reveal the state of your inner cultivation. Most people live backwards. They believe that if they can control their public image, they will be respected and honored. They focus on managing what others see while neglecting what they are. But the way teaches us the opposite truth. When you cultivate your character genuinely, when you align your heart with righteousness, proper conduct flows naturally. You do not need to remember how to behave, because virtuous behavior becomes your nature. This is why the ancient sages could move through the world with such grace and authority. Not because they memorized rules of etiquette, but because they had transformed their inner nature. Their public conduct was simply the overflow of their private cultivation. They understood that every moment in public was an opportunity to either strengthen or weaken the moral fabric of society. In the teachings that follow, we will explore 9 specific behaviors that the cultivated person never displays in public. Not because these actions might offend others, though they surely do. Not because they might damage your reputation, though they certainly will. But because these behaviors reveal an uncultivated heart, a spirit that has not yet learned to harmonize with the greater order of virtue. The first behavior that reveals an uncultivated character is the public display of uncontrolled anger. Most people justify their outbursts by pointing to external provocations. They say the merchant cheated them, the servant was disrespectful, the neighbor was unreasonable. But Confucius taught that the source of anger is not in the world around you. It is in the disorder within you. When you allow anger to erupt in public, you demonstrate that your emotions still govern your actions, rather than your cultivated judgment. You show that you have not yet learned the fundamental lesson of self-mastery. The superior person feels anger. For anger at injustice is natural and even necessary. But they do not become anger. They do not let this emotion overwhelm their capacity for right action. Consider the ruler who rages at his ministers in the court. In that moment, he ceases to be a ruler and becomes merely a man possessed by passion. His authority crumbles not because others rebel against him, but because he has rebelled against his own higher nature. The people lose respect not for his position, but for his character. And once character is questioned, position becomes meaningless. True strength is revealed not in the force of your anger, but in your ability to remain centered when provocation comes. The cultivated person understands that every challenge to their peace is an opportunity to demonstrate their level of inner development. When someone acts with disrespect, when circumstances frustrate your plans, when life does not bend to your desires, these moments reveal whether you have truly learned the way or whether you still live as a slave to circumstance. The wise know that anger clouds judgment and corrupts decision-making. When you are angry, you cannot see clearly. You cannot hear the full truth of a situation. You cannot respond with the balance that righteousness requires. This is why the sage learns to feel anger without being consumed by it, to acknowledge the emotion while maintaining the clarity needed for right action. But beyond the practical consequences, public displays of anger violate something deeper. They disrupt the harmony that should exist between people. They create chaos where order should prevail. They spread disorder like a disease, affecting not just yourself and your immediate target, but everyone who witnesses the eruption. The second behavior that marks an uncultivated spirit is the habit of speaking without consideration for truth and consequence. In public gatherings, you will often observe people who speak simply to fill silence, who offer opinions on matters they do not understand, who make promises they cannot fulfill, who spread rumors they have not verified. Confucius taught that words have power to create harmony or chaos, to build trust or destroy it, to elevate the human spirit or degrade it. This is why the cultivated person weighs their words carefully, speaks only when speech serves a worthy purpose, and remains silent when silence better serves wisdom. When you speak carelessly in public, you reveal that you have not yet learned to govern your tongue. You show that you value the temporary pleasure of expression more than the lasting consequences of your words. You demonstrate that your speech flows from impulse rather than from cultivated judgment. The wise understand that every word spoken in public becomes part of the moral atmosphere that others must breathe. Careless words pollute this atmosphere just as surely as careless actions pollute the physical world. This is why the superior person speaks truth when truth serves righteousness, offers encouragement when encouragement builds character, and maintains dignified silence when words would only add to confusion. The third behavior that reveals an uncultivated heart is the public display of excessive pride in your achievements or possessions. Watch how some people enter a gathering and immediately begin recounting their successes, displaying their wealth or drawing attention to their accomplishments. They speak of their fine robes, their large estates, their connections to powerful men, as if these external things could somehow add to their essential worth. Confucius understood that true merit does not announce itself. Like the fragrance of plum blossoms that spreads naturally on the wind, genuine virtue attracts recognition without effort or declaration. When you must proclaim your own worth, you reveal that you doubt it yourself. When you parade your achievements before others, you show that your sense of value depends upon their admiration rather than upon your own cultivation. The superior person allows their actions to speak. They let their character reveal itself through consistent conduct rather than through boastful words. They understand that the moment you begin to seek praise, you become enslaved to the opinions of others. Your peace becomes dependent upon their approval, and your sense of worth rises and falls with their changing judgments. Consider the scholar who enters the academy and immediately begins listing the classics he has memorized, the teachers who have praised him, the examinations he has passed. In doing so, he reveals that learning has not yet transformed his heart. Knowledge has remained external decoration rather than becoming internal wisdom. The truly learned person demonstrates their understanding through humble questions, through careful listening, through responses that reveal depth without displaying it. Pride in public is particularly corrosive because it creates division where harmony should exist. When you elevate yourself above others through boasting, you place barriers between your heart and theirs. You make it difficult for genuine connection to occur, for mutual learning to take place, for the bonds of human fellowship to form naturally. The fourth behavior that marks spiritual immaturity is the habit of correcting others in public, especially when the correction serves your ego more than truth or kindness. You have surely witnessed those who cannot allow even small errors to pass without demonstration of their superior knowledge. They interrupt conversations to provide corrections, point out mistakes that harm no one, and use their knowledge as a weapon to establish dominance rather than as a gift to serve wisdom. The cultivated person understands the difference between correction that serves the greater good and correction that serves personal vanity. When a friend is about to make a decision that will bring genuine harm, gentle guidance offered with compassion serves righteousness. But when you correct trivial errors simply to display your knowledge, you reveal that learning has fed your pride rather than cultivating your humility. True wisdom recognizes that being right is less important than being kind, that preserving relationships often matters more than preserving accuracy in small details. The sage knows when to speak truth and when to let minor errors pass in service of greater harmony. They understand that constant correction creates an atmosphere where others become guarded, where natural conversation becomes impossible, where learning stops because people fear making mistakes. When you must correct someone in public, do so with such gentleness that they feel elevated rather than diminished. Offer your knowledge as a gift freely given rather than as proof of your superiority. And remember that the greatest teachers often learn more from their students than they impart, for teaching with humility opens the heart to wisdom that pride cannot receive. The fifth behavior that reveals an unrefined character is the public display of excessive emotion over personal disappointments or setbacks. Life brings challenges to every person, regardless of their station or virtue. The harvest fails. Business ventures collapse. Relationships end. Health declines. Plans go awry. These are the common experiences of human existence, neither to be sought nor entirely avoided. But how you respond to these inevitable difficulties in the presence of others reveals the depth of your cultivation. The person who wails publicly over every setback, who seeks sympathy for every inconvenience, who makes their personal struggles the center of every gathering, demonstrates that they have not yet learned to find their stability in virtue rather than in circumstance. Confucius taught that the superior person maintains equanimity in both fortune and misfortune, not because they feel less deeply, but because they have learned to draw their peace from sources that external events cannot touch. Their worth is not diminished by failure, their identity is not dependent upon success, and their happiness does not require that life conform to their preferences. This does not mean becoming cold or indifferent to life's natural sorrows. The cultivated person grieves losses, feels disappointment when plans fail, experiences the full range of human emotion. But they do not make their emotions the burden of others, nor do they lose their center when circumstances shift. They understand that public spaces serve the common good, and constantly drawing attention to personal problems disrupts the harmony that should exist in community. When genuine tragedy strikes, when loss cuts deep, when sorrow is too heavy to bear alone, The wise person seeks appropriate counsel from trusted friends in private settings. They share their burdens with those who can truly help, rather than displaying their pain as a performance for general sympathy. The sixth behavior that reveals an untrained spirit is the habit of speaking ill of others, particularly those who are not present to defend themselves. In every gathering, you will encounter those who fill conversation with gossip, who share unflattering stories about neighbors, who criticize the character or actions of people who cannot respond. They may justify this behavior by claiming they speak only truth, but truth spoken with malicious intent serves darkness rather than light. Confucius understood that words have the power to build up or tear down, to create trust or destroy it, to strengthen the bonds of community or weaken them. When you speak negatively about others in public, you accomplish several harmful things simultaneously. You damage the reputation of the absent person, you poison the atmosphere of the gathering, and you reveal your own character as someone who cannot be trusted with confidential knowledge. The superior person protects the dignity of others, even when those others have acted poorly. They understand that speaking well of people in their absence builds a foundation of trust that strengthens all relationships. When others hear you defend someone who is not present, they learn that you can be trusted to defend them as well when they are absent. This principle does not require you to praise wrongdoing or ignore genuine character flaws that affect the community's well-being. But it does require that your words serve constructive purposes rather than destructive ones. If someone's behavior truly needs to be addressed, address it directly with them or with appropriate authorities who can take meaningful action. Do not use their failings as entertainment for others or as a way to elevate yourself by comparison. These 9 behaviors we have explored are not merely social mistakes or lapses in etiquette. They are symptoms of a heart that has not yet aligned itself with the way, of a character that remains fragmented rather than whole. Each reveals a specific aspect of inner cultivation that requires patient attention and daily practice. The path of the superior person is not about perfection, for even the sage continues learning until their final breath. It is about consistent effort to harmonize your inner nature with the moral order that governs all existence. When you master yourself in private, your public conduct naturally reflects this mastery. When you cultivate virtue in solitude, your interactions with others become expressions of that virtue. Remember that every time you enter the presence of others, you carry the opportunity to either strengthen or weaken the moral fabric of your community. Your restraint teaches restraint to those who observe it. Your kindness plants seeds of kindness in hearts that may be hardened by the world's harshness. Your dignity reminds others of their own capacity for noble conduct. The way is not a destination, but a manner of walking. Each day brings new tests of your cultivation, new opportunities to demonstrate whether wisdom has truly taken root in your heart. Begin today, in this very moment, to observe your own conduct with the gentle attention of a gardener tending precious seedlings. The world needs those who understand that true strength lies not in dominating others, but in governing oneself with righteousness and compassion.